Some of the most important ideas of the last 100 years didn't come from a desk. They came from a bathtub, a bed, a walk through the woods. The exact places where the person wasn't even trying to think. And here's the strange part. All of those places have one thing in common. One specific condition that switches your best ideas on. Scientists can point to it now, in the brain, on a scan. And you destroy that condition every single day. With a small object you're probably holding right now. I'll show you what it is by the end of this video. But first, we have to talk about the lie. You've been told about how good ideas actually work. You know the moment you're stuck on a problem, a work thing, a decision, a sentence that won't come out right. So you do what everyone tells you to do. You buckle down, you focus harder, you stare at it, and nothing comes. Then you give up, you go take a shower. And somewhere between the shampoo and the soap, with no warning at all, the answer just walks into your head. Fully formed, like it had been waiting for you to stop looking. We've all lived this, so we tell ourselves it was luck, a fluke, the warm water, maybe. But it isn't luck. It happens too often, to too many people, in exactly the same situations, to be luck. So let's start with the first thing almost everyone gets wrong. The advice is always the same. Stuck? Try harder. Concentrate. Push through it. And it turns out that advice is close to backwards. Because of what your brain is doing when you focus. When you lock your attention onto a problem and grind at it, your brain runs a tight, narrow search. It goes down the most obvious path, the one you've already walked 100 times. Focus is a flashlight. It's brilliant for seeing one small spot in front of you. It's useless for seeing the whole dark room. But the second you stop, something else switches on. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It's the set of brain regions that light up when you're not doing anything in particular. For years, scientists assumed this was the brain idling, resting, off duty. It is the opposite of off duty. When the default mode network takes over, your brain starts wandering across everything it knows. Connecting distant, unrelated scraps of memory that your focused mind would never have put in the same room. That random idea from a podcast 3 weeks ago. A thing your friend said. The problem you're stuck on. The default mode network grabs all of it and starts mixing. So the answer didn't arrive in the shower because you stopped working on it. The answer arrived because you stopped working on it. Your focus was the thing standing in the way. The moment you let go of the flashlight, the lights in the whole room came on. Which means every time you forced yourself to sit and stare harder at a problem, you may have been doing the one thing guaranteed to keep the answer locked away. And if that sounds like a modern lab discovery, it isn't. Humans have known this, in their gut, for over 2,000 years. You've heard the story. Ancient Greece, the city of Syracuse. The inventor Archimedes is handed an impossible problem by his king. And he's stuck, until he lowers himself into a bath, watches the water rise around him. And the solution hits him so hard that he leaps out and runs naked through the streets screaming one word. Eureka! I've found it. A breakthrough so good he forgot the basics of being dressed. Now, here's something they don't tell you. Historians today think that story is probably not quite true. The version with the crown may have been embroidered centuries later. Some scholars at Oxford argue the real breakthrough was about whether a giant ship would float, not a king's crown at all. The naked sprint may never have happened. But notice what survived. For 2,000 years, through every retelling, one detail refused to die. The bath. Even if we invented the crown, even if we invented the running, humanity insisted on keeping the part where the great idea arrives in the water, the moment the genius stops working and starts soaking. We kept it because, deep down, every single one of us knows it's true. So that's the first myth gone. Ideas don't come from grinding harder. They come from letting go. But that raises a much better question. If letting go is the secret, why the shower? Why not just lie on the couch and stare at the ceiling? And the answer to that is where this gets genuinely strange. Because the magic was never the warm water. Almost everyone believes it's the water, the heat, the relaxation. It isn't. And once you see what it actually is, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Try this. Sit in a chair right now and do absolutely nothing. Stare into space and wait for brilliant ideas. They won't come. Within about 90 seconds you'll be bored out of your mind, and what will you do? You'll reach for your phone. Pure boredom doesn't make you creative. It makes you desperate for stimulation, and you kill the wandering before it starts. Now go the other way. Try to have a creative breakthrough while doing your taxes. Also nothing. The task is too hard. It eats all of your attention. There's nothing left over to wander with. The shower lives in the narrow gap between those two. It's a task, washing, rinsing, the same familiar routine. So your hands and a sliver of your mind are busy. But it's an easy task. It asks almost nothing of you. So most of your mind is free to roam. Your brain is like a restless employee. Give it nothing to do and it walks out for a smoke. Give it too much and it drowns. Give it something just dull enough to occupy the front desk, and the rest of the staff quietly slips into the back room and starts doing the real, interesting work. That's the secret, not water. A task that's just engaging enough to keep you there, and just boring enough to set your mind loose. Which is why it was never really about the shower at all. It's washing the dishes. It's mowing the lawn. It's a long drive on an empty highway. It's a walk with no destination. Any of them will do it. The shower just happens to be the one place left where nothing else can reach you. And the brain scans show just how physical this is. A psychologist named John Cunios studied people in the exact instant they solved a problem by insight, that sudden, aha, where the answer appears whole. In the second right before the answer arrived, he found a burst of alpha waves, the kind of brain activity that quiets things down. In other words, in the heartbeat before a great idea surfaces, your brain briefly shuts out the world around it. It blinks. Cunios calls it a brain blink. It's why you instinctively look away, close your eyes, or stare at the ceiling when you're chasing a thought. Your brain is dimming the lights so the idea can step into view. And it gets stranger the further you follow it. Because the people who made some of history's biggest leaps weren't at their desks either. And the place the idea found them kept drifting further and further from anything that looks like work. Start with Archimedes, in the bath. Fine, a tub, at least he was awake. Then there's Auguste Kekule, the chemist who spent years trying to crack the structure of benzene and getting nowhere. The answer came to him while he was dozing by a fire. He saw a vision of a snake seizing its own tail, curling into a ring, and woke up realizing the molecule was a ring. One of the foundational discoveries in chemistry arrived in a half-dream by a fireplace. And then it goes further. Because some people figured out the trick and started hunting that state on purpose. Thomas Edison and the painter Salvador Dali would sit in a chair holding an object in one hand, a steel ball, a set of keys, and let themselves drift toward sleep. The instant they nodded off, their hand relaxed, the object crashed to the floor. And the noise jolted them awake, right at that hazy border between waking and sleeping where the ideas live. They were laying traps for their own insights. So the secret to changing the world might just be a bad nap with good timing. And further still, all the way back to the beginning, Plato and Aristotle taught while walking. They were called the peripatetics, the wanderers, because they did their deepest thinking on foot. And it's not just an old habit. A Stanford study put it to the test and found that walking boosted creative output by an average of around 60% compared to sitting. And the key wasn't the change of scenery. It was the act of moving the body itself. So look at the ladder we just climbed. A genius in a bath. A chemist asleep by a fire. Inventors deliberately falling unconscious to catch ideas as they fell. Philosophers who refused to sit down at all. Every one of them further from the desk than the last. And not one of them was doing the thing we're all told to do, which is sit still and concentrate. So we've established the recipe. Let go of the problem. Find a task that's just boring enough. Let your mind off its leash. It sounds easy. So here's the part that should genuinely worry you. Remember the condition I promised at the start? The one all these places share, the one you destroy every day? Here it is. Every one of those moments, the shower, the walk, the long drive, the wait in line, depends on your mind being free to wander. Unoccupied, a little bit bored, and we have systematically eliminated every one of those moments from our lives. Think about where your mind used to drift. Standing in line, riding the elevator, sitting on the bus, waiting for a friend. The dead, empty, slightly boring gaps that used to be scattered all through your day. The exact gaps where your default mode network used to switch on and do its quiet work. They're all gone now, every single one of them, filled. The second a gap appears, your hand is already moving toward your pocket. We've taken every moment our minds used to wander and packed it with a screen. Researchers have a name for what we've lost. They call it a spontaneity deficit. We have engineered boredom out of existence, and we think we won. But boredom was where the ideas were coming from. And now you understand the promise I made at the start. The small object you're holding right now. It's your phone. The condition all those great ideas needed was an unoccupied mind, and your phone exists to make sure your mind is never unoccupied again. Which is the real reason the shower still works. It's not the water. It never was. The shower is simply the last place you can't bring your phone. It's the final sanctuary, the one remaining gap in your day that a screen hasn't colonized yet. That's why the ideas still ambush you in there. It's the only door the phone hasn't walked through. For now. Because waterproof phones already exist, we invented a way to bring the noise into the one quiet room we had left. Progress. And the day you start scrolling in the shower is the day you lose the last quiet room you had. So here's the question I want you to actually sit with. Not answer quickly. Sit with it. When was the last time you let yourself be bored? Truly bored. No screen, no podcast, no input. Just you and a wandering mind and a slightly dull task. If you can't remember, that's not a small thing. It means the room where your best ideas were born has been quietly emptied, and you're the one who keeps filling it. The next time you're stuck, the answer isn't to try harder. It's to put the thing down. Walk away, wash a dish, take the long way home. Leave the phone in another room and let yourself be gloriously, productively bored. Your best idea is already in there. It's just waiting for you to stop looking at the screen long enough to hear it.